But anywho, we will move on to our first news topic of the week. Which ones do you want to announce, Katie? Just give me a number, two numbers.
Uh, 1 and 3.
All right, take it away.
Okay. So number one, we have after 54 years, Aerosmith is announcing retirement from touring. Which first of all, it didn't even I knew they had lately, but I didn't know they were actively touring like this entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the news came as both a shock and yet not on Friday, August 2nd. Aerosmith, long dubbed the Bad Boys from Boston, announced their retirement from touring. Why do I keep saying it like that? Touring. Touring. I'm saying it like it's a car.
I'm saying nothing.
Anyway, it came down to singer Steven Tyler's voice and the damage done to his vocal cords and larynx the last year. Aerosmith has been vague about how the injury occurred. A statement posted on the group's website and social media accounts read, "As you know, Steven's voice is an instrument like no other. He has spent months tirelessly working on getting his voice to where it was before the injury. We've seen him struggling despite having the best medical team by his side. Sadly, it is clear that a full recovery from his vocal injury is not possible. We have what? We have made a heartbreaking and difficult but necessary decision as a band of brothers to retire from the touring stage." Um, it's a huge post on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, at the time, I'm sure it has more reactions than that, but
Well, one thing
they
they
write.
very cleverly when you hear these announcements and press releases, you guys and Katie, I know you can attest to this. We've both given press releases before, right? So the wording within the press release is very important, not only for you as an artist or a brand, but also you have to kind of put it out in such a way where you reread it, you reread it, you reread it because you want to be able to kind of nip in the bud anything somebody else might be able to read into that, right?
Right.
So the key word here in this press release, and again, this is a social media post, but in essence, it's a press release.
Oh
The
yeah.
the key word is touring. Again, Katie butchered the word 17 times, but the word
Okay.
is touring. Um,
Current.
so the real question is it over for good? Because the key word in the release, again, is touring. So that means they're not going to go on the road anymore. But the
That doesn't
statement
mean they're
does
not going to be
not
in studio.
address the possibility of a residency, which is always a possibility. If you don't know what a residency is, you messed up touring. Apparently, I can't say residency. Um,
Ah,
Basically, a residency is a venue will hire the same act to perform there either monthly, bi monthly, or weekly, sometimes even daily. Like Vegas, for example, has daily residencies. And so they're leaving open that possibility with their clever use of wordplay that there could be residencies for Aerosmith or even Steven Tyler in the future. So I find that very interesting. They didn't say performing. We are
they
stopping
said touring.
performing. They said touring. So I find that interesting. I don't know about you. How do you feel about the use of the word touring rather than performing?
I absolutely agree. And not only that, I mean, they can go in the studio.
Yep.
Or they could this is made as Aerosmith saying that Steven Tyler, is going downhill. They could get another vocalist as the Aerosmith. And they're not
Yeah.
going to, but I'm
Yeah.
saying they could. It leaves open a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, I don't see
Um,
that happening. It's always a possibility that the band members could come up with a new artist or a new vocalist. But I mean, if they're saying that Aerosmith is not going to tour anymore, then if that were to happen and a new vocalist came on board, it sounds to me if that happened, it would be a completely new project And
Probably, yeah.
I mean, Steven Tyler is Aerosmith, and I mean,
Also, I love it is very carefully worded about his vocals and stuff.
mm-hmm.
Um, I honestly like I've listened to Aerosmith over the years and everything, but I've never like really delved into like listening to Steven Tyler's voice. I can't tell you if he was necessarily doing it healthily or not. Considering how long he did it, I would assume healthily at least for a certain amount of time. But injuries like that don't just happen out of nowhere.
Right.
They happen because of long-term damage
It's
and more
degenerative.
than
It's degenerative.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, same shit happened to Adele, and she was pretty dang young. But after and touring, so long, like and and touring so long, um, it's just like I can't imagine. Because I mean, I know now. I write these songs. I was always, well, not always, but I was taught before to write a song that had your lowest lows and highest highs of your range. And that's straight up Steven Tyler. And doing that for decades and decades, regardless if, okay, if you are singing healthily that entire time, you're not going to have that issue. You're just not. Look
Mm-hmm.
at Willie. Look at there's a million, and Willie's old as dirt.
Well,
But
it's
like, there's a million people that you can think. Celine Dion, that was a good. She's almost 70, and
mm-hmm.
she sounds still just as beautiful.
Well, I have
And
a very good topic here that can kind of it lines up really well with what we're talking about here. I recently interviewed a guy by the name of Mike Tramp, who most people will not know who that is, but Mike Tramp was the lead singer and main songwriter for a band from the 80s called White Lion. And anybody who's listened to White Lion or any band from the 80s, you will know that the registers were always higher. Always, always super high from Vince Neil and Axl Rose and all of those guys, Brett Michaels from Poison. They all had that upper register. And the way Mike put it when we were talking on my other podcast, because, and I want to really put this in context, he has released recently 2 albums. One is about to be out, one is already out, called Songs of White Lion Volume 1 and 2. And so what these are is they're reimagined versions from the same songs that they released in the 80s. But they've been redone, the vocals have been redone, everything's been redone. So when I asked him why, like what was the idea behind it, what was the reason for the reimaginings, I expected him to talk about the difference in technology nowadays, right? The technology is better. Things sound better, things look better, etc., etc. And really the reason why he wanted to do it is because, and I'm going to put it the way he did. Okay, this is a direct quote. He said, I don't make love the same way that I did when I was 22. And so you think about it in those terms, what he means by that is he doesn't sound the same way he does, or he did, back when those songs were done originally. And it's impossible for him to live up to those vocal ranges as a 70-something-year-old versus a 20-something-year-old. And that's why he wanted to redo these songs. That way he can do them in his now voice instead of trying to do them as his then voice. And anybody who has seen a live version of Vince Neil from Motley Crue recently will see how much that man struggles with trying to be the then voice, right?
Oh.
So, I mean, the fact of the matter is, you're not going to sound the same in your 70s as you do in your 20s. And
Well, and the biggest thing behind that is you're not going to have the energy.
Yeah.
Is really what it comes down to.
Well, not only that, but your biology has changed. The shape of your vocal cords has changed. You have degenerative diseases within your vocal cords as well, just from stretching them for so long. And at some point in time, I mean, shoot, I'm 47 and I don't sound anything near what I sounded like in my 20s.
Your range shortens for sure. And I know, like Celine, and I know, like we talked about Celine Dion. I know I've watched a million videos of her live because I'm just mesmerized. But she sometimes, like, I've seen videos of her singing like My Heart Will Go On in a lower key than
Hmm.
it's recorded. But that's what you do.
You have to do it that way.
You
And
make the band relearn it. And usually if you go like a whole step down, it ain't that much of a problem.
well, unfortunately, and the other thing Mike said too on his episode, which is coming out next week, I think it comes out the same day as this, actually, this episode. Funny. But he said, look, you look at nowadays, he said, you don't see baseball players from the 80s still playing baseball today, or basketball players. You don't see that. Like, why do people expect their vocalists to sound exactly the same as they did in the 80s? It's not like I'm a guitar player and I can still play guitar the same way. It's not that way. And so what I'm afraid of, bringing this home back to Aerosmith, what I'm really worried about and afraid of for Steven Tyler is that maybe the expectation for him has always been to compare
Yeah.
himself to the then voice and trying to replicate that as best he could. And now,
Well,
because of that, his voice is essentially gone. It's shattered, right?
there's that side of the coin, and I also know like how I would be in that situation. I'd keep pushing myself till I couldn't.
Right.
I wouldn't go that far, I wouldn't think. But I give myself very, like, I have very high expectations for myself. If I could do it then, why the hell can't I do it now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I mean, I'm always trying to push my range and push my abilities. So to get to a point where I would be like, why the hell can't I sing this anymore? It would piss me off. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd try to be like, nope. So, I mean, I get that side of the coin too. But I'm not saying that's how he is, but that's
Yeah,
how I would.
I'm curious if it's fan expectation or self expectation from Steven. Um, Little known fact, I've actually, when I was very little, I had some interaction with the Tyler family when I grew up in
Hey.
Massachusetts. I don't talk about it much, but I've spent the weekend at their crib and stuff like that. So yeah, he's a cool guy, really really a cool guy. But we'll miss him. One of the best bands of all time,
Yep.
and it's just sad. Everything ends eventually, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.